Hello YouTube! Guys, I have been streaming on Twitch and on Kick and here on YouTube some Feral POV so far this season, and as well as a bunch of other things. Actually, if you're interested in watching me play Survival Hunter, Windwalker, Shadow Priest, Destro Warlock with a 1-button rotation, just specifically for that one, Frosty K, Ellie Shaman, Resto Shaman, Guardian Druid, Balance Druid. I'm playing tons of stuff, but Feral Druid is my main and will remain my main. And that's the main thing. I've been getting a lot of people asking me about like different talent loadouts and whether or not you can play certain things and how all of this sort of interacts. And I wanted to do a video for you guys breaking down some of the variations in talents and understanding why you take certain things in certain scenarios and where there's value and where there's less value. Now, a lot of part of this is based on some sim stuff and what is just actually good, and then some things are sort of like, okay, well, you have the core here, so now you have a little bit of choice in whether or not you want to take that or that, and I want to break down the why. So that's the point of this video. If you're new to Feral or returning to Feral, this should hopefully break down a lot of the talents. Now, I'm going to assume that you understand what your abilities do. Like, I get some people saying, hey, do I need to pull to 50 energy for Ferocious Bite? Why? And it's like, well, if you just read the ability, it literally tells you. And my camera is covering that right now, but just go read your abilities, and that really is helpful. But I'm going to show you a couple different talent builds. So right now in Mythic Plus, most people are playing Druid of the Claw. And in Raid, most people are playing Druid of the Claw. That's because Druid of the Claw right now is just better than Wildstalker, and that's math. Wildstalker is not doing so well. In Raid, it's a bit weird because normally Wildstalker, or for the rest of the previous parts of the expansion, Season 1, Wildstalker was better in Raid, not as good in Mythic Plus. But then, as the season went on and boss kills got a lot quicker, Druid of the Claw became the new best Raid talent for some bosses. So, like, the first boss, whatever that guy's called, because you just had Burst and you'd kill bosses really, really quickly, and Druid of the Claw was good for that, Wildstalker less so. So that happened in Season 1. Season 2, Wildstalker was BIS for the Raid for, like, the whole tier, but Druid of the Claw was still BIS in Mythic Plus for the whole tier. And then now, Druid of the Claw is, like, better in both from the get-go. And Wildstalker did get a little bit of a buff on the release of the new patch, but it's not really done much, I guess. And Druid of the Claw is still taken. Druid of the Claw is burstier. It's also tankier because you get like frenzied regen. You get frenzied regen in cat form at the cost of energy. I think there's some other little defensive bits here and there scattered throughout. You guys can read, but DOTC is slightly tankier. You can also combine it really nicely with like Heart of the Wild, which is going to give you a second use of frenzied regen, and that can be really handy. So that's nice. You got that in cat form. What else does Druid of the Claw do really well? Druid of the Claw does better prio damage, I would say, because you can actually choose your main target and you can choose your main bite target. Whereas Wildstalker, you have your fate is in the hands of the gods. Like, if your target has a vine on them, then they're a good prio target. If not, then it's like a little bit more awkward because whenever you bite the vines on a target, then they're going to explode on everything else. So if you're biting a target that doesn't have a vine on it, then you're just losing damage from stuff. So you sort of have less of a choice in your prio, in a way, if you want to optimize your damage, and it's not as strong defensively, and then it doesn't burst as much. But it's not even as good as in single target anymore. So Druid of the Claw is kind of taking the cake at the moment. Now, can you play Wildstalker? Yes, I have been playing Wildstalker this season, just for fun. Like, I did a key on it, and I did like 8 million overall in 2 set. So damage is there. It's not like you can't play this thing. It's not like it's DOA. It's not like if you play it, you're inting. And you should absolutely have fun and play things. It's a video game. Who cares? Enjoy. If you want to play Wildstalker, go for it. Do not let anybody else out there stop you, okay? It's pretty fun. I wish it had twin moons right here. It could go right there, Blizzard. Twin moons could go right there. But that is the way of things. So, let's then talk about a couple different talent loadouts. So, I want to talk you guys through sort of like the core talents that are locked in. You need these. I'm going to talk about Mythic Plus, and then we'll talk about Raid really quick. So, Tiger Fury, obviously, Omen of Clarity, Primal Wrath. Like, basically, all of these talents here are locked in, apart from these 2 talents, right? So, everything in the top row, you kind of get this little, like, square going on, right? You're going to grab all of these because they facilitate you getting further down the tree and are also just strong talents. And then Primal Wrath is going to be your AoE ability, obviously. But these 2 talents are spare. You can go Double Clawed Rake and 1 Tireless. You can go Double Clawed Rake and a Merciless. You can go a Tireless and a Merciless. Now, the reason you would go each thing is Merciless is going to give you single target and AoE, because it's buffing Shred and also Brutal Slash. So, you get both. Tireless is going to help you in both environments, but it's, I think, better suited for single target, because you're more likely to be energy starved on single target than AoE. In AoE, you're getting more Apex procs, because you have more things bleeding, so you get more procs, so then you get bite, so then you get more energy refunded, and you, because you're using a free ability, that means you're spending time not using energy. So, all really good stuff there. Double Clawed Rake is good for situations where things are actually going to live a decent amount of time, and you can actually afford to rake on things. So if you're in like a +2 key, it's probably not great, and I probably wouldn't bother. But if you're in, you know, your 7s, 10s, 15s, like, yeah, you can grab Double Clawed Rake. Now, in certain dungeons in the pool, you might not want it, because you might find that, like, streets, for example, 5 bosses. Do you really need Double Clawed Rake when there's not actually that much trash, and a lot of the trash is 1 or 2 mobs at a time in some situations? Maybe you actually just go Merciless and a Tireless, and then you have more boss damage, and you can opt for more single target there, instead of Double Clawed Rake, which is going to get lower value. Now, you could take Double Clawed Rake to a Floodgate, and oh my god, you're going to have a blast there, because there's so many mobs and so many big AoE pulls, that Double Clawed Rake is going to be better value there. Now, a side note on Double Clawed Rake, a lot of people ask me about this, like, when are you raking? And it's like, well, it's like, when am I breathing? When I have to, I guess. Double Clawed Rake is like, it's like breathing. So, your rake spreading, like, rake spreading is high priority, and it does about 10% of your overall, right? But there are situations when you can't just rake spread. So, if you're needing to generate your Blood Talons, you can't just rake spread. You need to make sure you're doing 2 other generators. If you're going to overcap on combo points, you can't rake spread. You can rake up to 5 combo points, and then you got to do something, right? You need to make sure you're maintaining your other bleeds, so your Thrash, because that's really big value in AoE, and you need to make sure that you're using your Apex procs, you need to make sure that your Primal Wrath is running on everything, and that's not going to run out. So, rake spreading is something that I will do when my Primal Wrath is up, I don't have an Apex proc, I don't need to generate Blood Talons, and I have combo points spare to generate. So that's kind of the environment, that's kind of the situation. Now, when I am raking, I do what's called, like, the pyramid, I call it that, I don't know, kind of lame, but whatever. Where I will, like, say there's, like, 10 mobs here, and they're all stacked up, I will look at their nameplates, and I will, like, work my way up the sort of pyramid, and then down again. So when I'm in an environment when I am going to be raking, let's just imagine bleeds are up, Blood Talons is up, and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna, like, right, starting from the closest mob to my name, or just one that I just, like, catch. Like, okay, I'm gonna start on this one. And then I just, like, work my way up from each nameplate. So, like, yeah, that guy needs rake. Okay, this guy needs rake. Oh, that guy has rake. Okay, next mob. And I just sort of work my way up and then work my way back down again. And when you feel very comfortable with the rest of your feral rotation, then that's gonna feel quite easy. So that's sort of, like, the top of the tree. And long explanation there, but that was just a bit of a side tangent. Next, you come down to the next bit of the tree. So, Rampant Frosty is, like, only used in AoE, because it just causes your bite to cleave. You're always going to take it in any Mythic Plus environment, and then in Rage, you will take it in environments where mobs are actually living a long period of time, and you're running Primal Wrath. So if you were going to do, like, Heroic Soulbinder, I think it is, you probably wouldn't even bother taking Primal Wrath, because the boss, you know, you break the vessels, the boss spawns 2 mobs, they're dead in seconds, you're not going to Primal Wrath, you just Brutal Slash, right? Brutal Slash is your like, burst AoE when you don't want to disrupt your main target rip, and things don't live long enough. So, like, you wouldn't run Rampant and Primal Wrath in a single target or a heavily single target environment, because it's not doing anything for you. So instead, you would opt to take, like, MOC, right? Because that's a energy talent, and it's the next best option. everything else here on the tree is locked in all environments, right? You're not taking Moonfire unless you run Wildstalker, in which case you generally would. You're not running Savage Fury because it's not as good as Sudden Ambush, but if you really wanted to, you could. It's not the end of the world, especially if you're suboptimally playing Sudden Ambush, but that's by the by. Then you just kind of, there's not really too much choice there of how to mess this up. Everything else is sort of locked in. You want your build of Berserk, you want, you know, bite damage, you want rip damage, and you need to take this to get there, and you need to take something here to get down the tree because you want this stuff. So you only really have like one talent point available here that's movable. Single target, you go Moment of Clarity. AoE, you go Rampant Frosty. It's not really, and then if Wildstalker, you go Lunar Inspiration. Kind of locked in there. Bottom of the tree is where you have more choice. This is where it's like customizable, and this is where you'll see some wackier things. So in Raid, we're not running Apex anymore on single target because Saberjaws is massive, and it's been buffed and does a lot of damage. So we're running Saberjaws instead of the Apex. Now, if you're in a situation, again, where there's AoE, I mean, maybe in like, I don't actually know the math, actually, I do need to look at Council, and especially on Mythic, see how that's going to work, but the Demon Hunter boss, the Soul Hunters Council, you might try and get Apex here somehow, so you might run like, what can I even drop? Maybe do something like that, where, or maybe you would just drop Saberjaws completely, and then you could go like Double Swarm. Like that might be a decent build for Soul Hunters. You might opt out of it. Again, there's like sort of some scope for choice here, and obviously there'll be like a mathematical best or whatever. But yeah, in Raid we're generally running Saberjaws, and then you don't run Circle of Life and Death in single target anymore with DOTC. You also don't need Unbridled Swarm, because you don't need two swarms. You can get high enough saturation with just one swarm in pure single target. Once you start adding on more mobs, then more swarms is definitely better. So that talent point is then free. You can go into like Feral Frenzy. Then I have another talent point free. You go CI. That's like your Raid sort of build. That's like your Raid single. The bottom part of the tree. Don't look at the top. Here, I can show you. So this is like your Raid single target build, right? You can go double tireless, you go merciless, you got MOC, no rampant, and then yeah, bottom of the tree, Saberjaws, Swarm, Feral Frenzy, CI. That just is the best simming. It's the best math. Math is math. So that's what you would grab right now. If you still have the old 4 set, it's important to note you always want Apex in all content. So you would drop CI and just grab Apex there, right? Because the old tier set from Season 2 works with Apex. So do not change from Apex in any content if you've got old tier set. Once you get 2 and 2, or you get the new tier set, then you can swap away from Apex and single target and raids, and this is where you grab something like this. Now, talking a little bit about, like, there's not too much variety, I guess, in single target. Like, I guess you could drop off the CI and you could go Circle, or you could maybe go Rip and Tear, or you could go in Apex. Like, you could do something like that. You could even maybe drop the Feral Frenzy if you wanted to. Again, there's mathematical best, and then there's, like, your comfort and what you think you're going to perform better on. And that's fine. I'm the type of person where if you don't like Feral Frenzy, then don't run it. There's some things that dropping them would be pretty rough. Like, you're never going to drop Blood Talons or Lion Strength. You're always going to take one of the two. You're never going to drop, like, Convoke, right? But there's some variety here where maybe you could drop a CI, Feral Frenzy. Like, there's a little bit of scope there for some variety and stuff. Now, Mythic Plus is a bit more freedom with some of these changes. So, or some things you can change. So, Mythic Plus, you can go Double Swarm. Double Swarm is really good. It's going to increase your single target. It's also going to increase your AoE, like, over time. It sort of takes a while to get ramping and get going, so it's not good in low content. If you're doing +2s, +4s, +6s, like, just don't play Swarm unless you really, really like Swarm. Or if you're in, like, a Streets or something, yeah, Swarm is probably still decent, even on low key level, because it's very boss heavy and low trash count. But if you're in, like, if you're in higher keys, that's where Swarm's really going to come alive. If you're in lower stuff, or you just want, like, more of a bursty build, then you can go double CI. It's also super easy to play. Now, I think you can take Tiger's Nasty or Raging Fury here, but I like the idea of Raging Fury with CI. It just means that you basically never mess up your snapshotting on your Primal Wrath in AoE and stuff. So, like, you can take either or there with CI. you would always take like circle and all the rest of the tree. But it's these 2 points here. It's these 2 points that are free. These two. You can go double CI. You can go Swarm in 1 Feral Frenzy. You can go double Swarm. You could go Saber Jaws. I don't like it so much. You could maybe play it in Streets or like Arakara. Something like, or Dawnbreaker, right? Where it's very single target heavy, very boss heavy. Lots of little shitty mobs that kind of die quickly that you don't care about. So you could do that. You could do that. I don't like it too much, but you could. But those are sort of your options. You can do any sort of combination of that. And I, in quite a lot of dungeons, am playing this, where I'm going double CI and Raging Fury. It's really good burst. Single target's good. Fun. And then, yeah, you have the option to go Swarm if you want to. If you were going to play Wildstalker in Keys, you don't really need to change. I don't know if this build is up to date. You don't really need to change too much. You do need Double Clawed Rake. I don't know why I didn't have it there. But you need like a tireless energy. You just don't get enough energy with Wildstalker, I find. Everything else is the same with Rampant. You wouldn't play Lunar in Keys. And then you go Double Swarm. Everything's kind of the same there. But that's kind of like a breakdown of where there's variation and perhaps like why. I would say play, like, you can really play what you want. I did a key the other day with a super basic build. I played this in Mythic Plus. It was no Double Clawed Rake. It was Raging Fury, Double CI, Lion Strength. It was super simple. You can't mess it up. And still did like 6-7 mil overall or something like that with 2 set. So you can play it. It's definitely worse damage than some of the other builds, but it's not so horrendous that people are going to be like, dude, this guy sucks. The gear will just carry you if you do that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is, like, people asking me about talents. I'm going to link some of these in the description, but people ask me about talents. I want to let you guys know that a really good place to go to. So for talents, you can, check out the description, check out Raider.io, check out Murloc.io as well. Murloc.io is a good website, though it's currently might not have enough data. They might have it. Okay, they don't currently have the data or the APIs, whatever. But normally this is a good place. It's like a collated top 50 players of the spec, and it'll tell you what they're running and what their stats are and enchants and gear and talents and everything. And you can see the variation with like how many people chose one talent and how many people chose a different talent. In terms of raid talents, this one is my personal pet peeve when people ask me for my talents for raid, and I'm like, brother, literally, it's like boss dependent. Go on Warcraft logs and just go and click the boss and then just see. And you can go and see what everyone's running, and then you can export it. Okay, there isn't actually a good export button there, but you can click on the top person, right? Do an export, boom, done. You're set. Please stop asking me for raid talents. I'm gonna lose my mind. Anyway, this was like quick fire. I'm going to Gamescom, but I just wanted to get something out for you guys. Hopefully there's like... I've tried to record this video like 6 different times, and hopefully this is a solid one. I just wanted you guys to understand where some of the talent variation's coming from and why, and where you have choice. Thanks very much for watching. Make sure you come check me out on Twitch, on Kick, on YouTube, streaming all the time. I'm playing Feral this season. I'm also playing other stuff. Enjoy that. And thanks for watching. Take care.